26th at 6:30 p.m. Going to do a roll call.
All right.
You're going to do
Yep, I'll do it. J.R. Glenn, Keenan Leisman, Tracy Welch,
Present.
Kevin Bateman,
Present.
Tommy Young,
Present.
Matt Vogel, Tom Anderson,
Present.
T.J. Bishop,
Present.
Jeff Hoineke,
Present.
Sal Paulus, Becky Worth,
Here.
and John White.
Yep.
All right.
Got 8 present.
That being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 18th, 2026 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Becky Worth made the motion, Tracy second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? I'd also like to make a motion to approve the bills, which are the planning CD options, highway department, office rent space invoice.
Motion. Second.
John White made the motion, TJ second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. You wanna do that at the end? All right, I'm gonna skip down to, public comments, because I know there's a lot of people here, we all have lives to get back to and things we might wanna do, so at this point, I'm gonna open the floor to public comments. Please be advised that if we get off topic of what this meeting is or what this group actually does, I may stop you so that we can explain what this group actually does. Just be aware, this is not a vote tonight that's either for or against data centers. So if you have any comments on the proposed ordinance revisions, I'll open that up now. And if you want to speak, state your name so we can get it on the record. And
Kevin, do you want to explain a little bit what planning commission does in relation to the process right here? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
Okay. Just to help explain everybody here as far as what this process is. So there has been a proposed amendment to the zoning ordinance. Okay, the county has a zoning ordinance that controls all the zoning in the county. The county board has recommended that we add an appendix to that zoning ordinance to allow for data centers. As part of that process, that comes out of the committee of the county board. That process then sends it over to this group, which is the Logan County Regional Planning Commission. Logan County Regional Planning Commission consists of a lot of appointed members, some elected members from all over the county. We take a look at that and compare that with the comprehensive plan that we have in place here for the county, and take a look at that language, but it's from a higher level planning view from what we look at that at. And then we provide an advisory recommendation, either thumbs up or thumbs down essentially, that can get carried on to the county board. From here it goes to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which meets tomorrow night here in the same room. That Zoning Board of Appeals is a much smaller group. They will look at that in much more in-depth of the actual language in that proposed ordinance or in that amendment to the ordinance. So tomorrow night they will go into much more detail than what we will tonight. The Zoning Board of Appeals is also an advisory board or advisory council to the county board. They will provide that advisory recommendation to the county board. The county board will then take that up, I believe, well, I don't know when that gets taken up by the county board. I guess that might be up to county board members, whether it be this month or next month or however. But that's what we're here to do tonight. For the planning commission, we're here to look at that proposed language as the amendment to the zoning ordinance and decide whether that meets with our comprehensive plan or not. So just making sure everybody's on the same page as far as what we're supposed to be doing here. So, and just so people can know, I know we're kind of scattered all over the room. If those members of the planning commission could raise their hand, and that way people know who the planning commission members are. So there There you go. So those are the members of the planning commission. And I should note that our zoning officer, who is also the executive director of the planning commission, is not available tonight. He's with his daughter, who had major surgery here earlier this week. So he is taking care of her out of state. I am filling in for him. So I'm the county engineer, and I'm also a non-voting member of the planning commission. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chairman.
So again, the makeup of the regional planning commission is the mayor from each town has can show up as the mayor from Atlanta is here tonight, or a designee that they can send. The city of Lincoln gets the mayor and one representative, and the county board gets 2 representatives. Then it's also made up of citizens that live within the county. If you are interested at some time sitting on a commission like this, you can get a hold of our zoning officer, Alan Green. We do have openings from time to time because people move or retire or whatever. And they take it under advisement if you would like to be part of this process. So with that being said, does anybody have any questions on what we are discussing tonight?
We weren't sure, my name's Cindy Goodman, we weren't sure what the actual discussion was gonna be tonight, because I missed the last meeting. Unfortunately, I was out of town, but I've been trying to come to as many as I can to understand everything that's going on and what the proposed, situation's gonna be. Because we've voiced our opinion hundreds of times that we are against this, and our reasons why we are against this. But the last meeting I went to, they said that they didn't have an ordinance in effect, so that's what they needed to do. So what is the actual ordinance gonna be, and what is it gonna be about?
So what we are voting on or proposing tonight is the original ordinance for the county. Right now, there is nothing in it that says data center. So what we're proposing is that we would move forward with, because of our comprehensive plan, that we would suggest that the county board, that they could put data centers in, and I think the 3 sections are agriculture, M1, and M2. Now,
So
that's
M1 and M2 are what?
M1 is limited manufacturing districts, M2 is a general manufacturing district, or an M3, which is an extraction district, like a quarry or something like that, zoned that way.
So that is done for any type of business that comes forward. It is decided where in the comprehensive plan and the ordinance it would fit. So, if someone was gonna build a neighborhood or a high-rise, they would have to come the same way if they picked a piece of property that didn't fit in the original ordinance. Okay? So I just want to explain, none of the voting tonight is for or against a data center. It's just, in our county ordinance, we have no place for it, so there's no way to regulate.
Sir, is there a place where that could be reviewed, the amendment, by the general public at this time? Website, printed copy, anything?
I can't say, because I'm not the zoning officer, like I said, I'm just filling in tonight, but that should be made available. I'll see what I can do about trying to get that put on the website.
Thank you.
He had a family emergency. He doesn't ever miss meetings. He had a family emergency, so he does have a draft here, but that's all we have is one copy of the draft. It will become section J in the original county ordinance. Any other questions or comments?
Any public comment? Yeah.
Yes. State your name, please.
Good evening, my name is Gavin Wicker. I live in Lincoln, and I'm a homeowner here in Logan County, and I've been here at these meetings because I care about where this county is headed. I want to talk about the direction that we're headed. Over time, we've seen population decline and fewer opportunities for growth. That affects everything, our schools, businesses, and our ability to maintain a strong public services. Projects like this don't come around often. There's a chance to bring significant investment into our area and strengthen our tax base in a way that supports this entire community. It's also an opportunity to build infrastructure and position Logan County for future growth instead of continuing to fall behind. I believe we can address concerns while still moving forward responsibly, and I believe it's important that we don't miss an opportunity that could benefit this county for decades to come. Thank you.
Any other comments?
She's got
Yes,
one
Sue?
more. It's like, I know, there's hundreds of people that are against it. And there's then a comment made that there's been several that have maybe called or emailed saying they are for it. My question is, for those who are for it, how many will even live anywhere near that data center? Because if they don't live in that area and they're living elsewhere, sure, it's not gonna affect them, so they'll be for it. But for those people who do live in that area, it's detrimental to them. That's all I can say.
Do you have your hand up? Yes?
Yes. My name is Susan Howe. I actually have a question for this gentleman here. When we were at our last meeting, I had asked you about who was involved behind this project, and asked about Palantir. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned that Google was supporting the data center down south, correct?
First of all, am I allowed to comment?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what you mean by support. I think that's an important definition. They're not investors in HUD.
Okay, but you said Google was
Yes,
involved?
they are credit stopping the tenant at our facility in Louisiana.
Okay.
But just, they're not an investor, to be clear.
Okay. With these data centers, do you know anything about the flock cameras and how they're related to these data centers? Are you aware of that?
Tell me more. A flop.
You gotta be kidding me.
Speak up, please. Watch everyone. You're not aware of what's happening in China or any of these other countries and how they're using AI to monitor their own citizens, getting the police involved, using credit score to shut people down if their credit score is bad, where they can't go do anything. You're not aware of any of that with any of this AI stuff?
I'm not aware of that at all. And in fact, Illinois has very strict laws on privacy. Have you heard of the Biometric Information Privacy Act?
Please.
So Illinois just has very restrictive rules on how people can use data. It will comply with all state and federal law.
Okay, well, everyone's aware that our governor here has been involved in a lot of corrupt stuff, so I don't think that we're gonna stand on really good laws here.
Is it like consumer data that's gonna be stored there, or what kind of data are you talking about?
We don't have a tenant, like, we're top of the first, like, we don't even have zoning, no one wants to talk to us until we have zoning or power. So, once we have, if we're fortunate enough to get the zoning, then we'll start talking to customers. But Illinois is extremely strict on how data can be used. And like, I encourage everyone to go look at the FIPA, it's called FIPA, and you can read for yourself. But there's no tenant. I mean, we're literally just trying to get the zoning so we can have those conversations with the tenants.
Okay, well, in order to zone and plan a project, we need to have every detail in order to support or deny it. We can't just say, we're gonna put this data center in, we don't have a tenant, we don't have information, we want you to all vote for it and support it, when we the people have the power and we're demanding that information and we need every detail. It's no different than going into a court of law and a judge demanding that they have every fact to prove somebody beyond a reasonable doubt, whether they're innocent or guilty. We need that information for this project to know if it's good or it's evil.
Any information that's required of us that's subject to the ordinance or the conditional use permit, we intend to provide.
And if I could just jump in on one, sorry, Mr. Chair. To introduce myself, my name is Ben Jacoby. I'm an attorney for HUD 8. I represent the data I actually grew up in Mahomet, down the road on 57, town, not that much bigger, actually, I think it's a little smaller than it's right now. I just have to jump in, I think as was explained, the purpose of this meeting is for the ordinance, for the Regional Planning Commission to determine if the ordinance as drafted is consistent with their comprehensive plan. So this isn't a meeting that's going to evaluate the merits of this data center, that's gonna come later. And so the information you're requesting is fair, but that's the type of information that will be presented at the conditional use permit hearing. And it's gonna be very detailed. You'll get a lot of answers to this data center at that hearing.
And where's that gonna be, when's that gonna be?
So that'll be, once an ordinance is approved that regulates data centers, then an application will be filed. So it's not even filed yet.
Okay.
And right now, there's no ordinance, so there's no regulations for data centers in the county. So what the county is proposing is some regulation of data centers, so that they can't just free for all. And that's why we're here, is to participate in that process, because we obviously have a data center that we're interested in building. So the questions that you're asking, those detailed questions, those facts about this data center, how it's gonna operate, who's gonna back it, who the tenant's gonna be, those are questions appropriate for when the application is filed and that zoning hearing takes place. That could be next month, could be the month after that. First, you need an ordinance in place to regulate it.
Yeah.
So-
I just think that details are important before
Well, they
we
are.
even
So I just-
waste time doing any of this.
So I just wanna clarify, what the vote tonight is, as he just said, there is no ordinance for a data center. So once the ordinance is passed in the data center, then they can apply to build a data center, them or some other company. Then that's when the conditions and such get put in, and that would be at the ZBA and the county level. No different than, I was on the county board for 10 years, so we allowed wind farms. But once we allowed wind farms, that's when Brett got involved and the others got involved on, these are the conditions you have to meet in order to build these wind farms. And they got pretty strict, the road use agreements, where you're gonna store the dirt, when the construction's gonna happen, times a day that's gonna happen. So again, I know there's a ton of misinformation out there. So that's what I'm trying to clarify tonight. This meeting is the first step in the county to be able to get involved in, if they vote to approve a data center, and what conditions they'll put on it to be built. Does that clarify what everybody's thinking?
So then if we approve it, then that means that just basically means then we get the full specs of the project.
Once an ordinance is approved, then what would happen next in the zoning process is for a developer, HUD 8 or another, if they want to build a data center consistent with the ordinance, then they would file an application that shows how they meet all the criteria in your ordinance. And, all the details that the ordinance requires, and I understand maybe you haven't seen drafts of it, but when you look at it, you'll see it's quite detailed. So it has all sorts of stuff, setbacks, decommissioning, the offtake, all the types of things that you would need to see in order to properly evaluate whether the data center is a good fit for your community. That information is all gonna come in that application.
Just after the fact then, after it's already been approved?
No,
We're gonna get that.
no, only once the ordinance is approved. Right now, it's unregulated. Understand, somebody could apply for a data center, and there's no regulations in your county for it. They would come in and they would apply for rezoning, and they would try to fit it into another descriptor, and, it would get creative. So in order to properly regulate data centers, the county has proposed adopting an ordinance that sets forth all the detailed regulations. And then if a data center developer can meet those regulations and wants to develop a center, then they file an application, they bring in their experts, they show how they're gonna comply with all of those requirements. That's a whole process. I'm sorry, sir.
Sir, may I ask,
Yes.
who drafted the amendment to the ordinance? HUD 8?
No.
You want me to answer that?
Yes, please.
We actually hired a separate attorney to actually draft the ordinance. It was not written by the county or HUD 8 or anybody else. They did the initial draft and then had our state's attorney review. Mike Dross was part of that draft. So the only thing that, just like a normal process, I think I explained to a couple other individuals, we hire somebody else like we did with wind farms, solar farms, and then battery storage that we're gonna have to create before follow what the state puts out June first. We have a outside third-party attorney that does all our ordinances, or any drafts like that. So it was drafted by him, not nobody with input. There were some reviews internally between the state's attorney and our other attorney for language, legal reasons. And then developers will come in and say, this is my recommendation, things like that. But they were not part of writing it.
Thank you.
But this draft was also, and other information was communicated to certain individuals of the county that were emailing Mr. Dross personally, and we were answering the best we could for what knowledge we had.
Thank you.
Where does the moratorium fit into the
I-
zoning and then going back to the county? Where's that?
That has nothing to do with this commission.
Okay.
Moratoriums are in place generally so that an ordinance can be investigated and then adopted. So your moratorium can only go for so long as until an ordinance is adopted, and they can't go indefinitely. So what I understand is that, you know, in order to prevent a company from applying with the details in a application prior to your regulations being adopted, the county adopted a moratorium to allow you to regulate, because they didn't want the unregulated use coming in. That's smart. So they adopted the moratorium, then they adopt the regulations, and then a developer can apply under those regulations. Now, if they don't meet the regulations, the county can deny the application. If they do meet the regulations, then the county should consider the application. And that's what happens next. That's not even on the table right now, because we don't know what the regulations are.
Okay, you had your hand up in the back?
Yes, can you just clarify though, Dale, wasn't HUD 8 sent a copy of the ordinance
Yes,
to provide input?
provide any input, yes.
And the attorney reviewed those inputs, and some were taken into account and incorporated into the ordinance that is being voted on today. Not voted on, recommended, sorry.
Our comments have not been accounted for.
No.
And tomorrow, at the ZBA hearing, so that everybody knows, that's when a detailed review, line by line of the ordinance, so that's when a detailed review of the ordinance takes place. And that's when anybody, us, other interested parties in the county, can come to the ZBA and say, you know, this regulation is too loose, this regulation is too strict, it's not clear, we recommend something different. And then that's the presentation that we intend to make tomorrow to the ZBA as how we think the ordinance, you know, may or may not be a good fit. And then that ZBA will then make its recommendation to the county board based on the input it receives from the public and also us.
I guess I'm just confused because I've seen email correspondence that some input has been provided with recommended solutions to the wording.
So the
Is
draft,
that true or not?
from the draft that is sent today that goes through ZBA, it was from original that was sent to the board 2 months ago on the draft. There was emails with recommendations and thoughts, but they were not implemented into this draft.
So I guess that just doesn't quite make sense to me unless I'm reading the email wrong, because I see comments from HUD 8 that say, you know, we recommend that for the noise requirements.
You just answered your own question. They recommend.
Right.
It has not been voted on, and it has not been finalized.
But that
All this-
portion isn't in the ordinance.
But all this meeting is tonight is
Okay.
to add the word data center to the original county ordinance as something we can start regulating in these 3 zones.
And really the purpose, if I may add to that, tell me if I'm out of line here, but really the purpose is that ordinance consistent with your comprehensive plan? That's what the Regional Planning Commission is looking at. So, you know, we looked at the comprehensive plan, I've got some thoughts on whether it's consistent or not, and that's the scope of this review. It's an advisory to the ZBA, if I understand correctly.
And as he said, June 1st, we have to start all over because the state is gonna push battery storage. We don't have that in our ordinance either.
That would be separate.
Correct. Yes, Cindy?
I have a question, like, who, regulates the ordinance? Because I know with the windmills, that the last meeting at the courthouse, a gentleman stood up and was saying there were no records of maintenance on any of those windmills. And just by our farm, we've got like 5 or 6 of those windmills that are leaking oil all over. So who regulates that and checks to make sure that the maintenance and stuff is being done? So, you know, it's like you can put an ordinance in, but if nobody's following the rules, what happens?
So I can answer, hold on, I can answer that. So I did talk to the individual after that meeting. There wasn't a clear communication on the issues that were occurring, so we are reaching out to Sugar Creek. Because what we have done in the past is brought it to the committee and actually brought the developer in front of the board, because that's part of the conditional use permit, that they would meet the requirements or answer complaints in a certain time.
Yeah, well, and I have no idea which,
So,
if where the windmills that are around our farm, which windmill farm that is, I have no idea, cause it's out west.
so
I don't know where the gentleman was from that, talked the other night.
the process should be, in which this individual did follow, it just never got channeled correctly through the board manager. Is you get a hold of the zoning officer, Al Green, you send him an email where you live, he has a way to look up to see who owns those wind farms or solar farms, and then he would go out there, talk to them to address it, this is our ordinance, this is our conditional use requirement, you're not meeting it, depending what each ordinance says, and then if they don't respond, which we did, bring one developer 2 years ago in front of the board saying, you're not meeting your conditional use, either address it in 24 hours or we'll pull your conditional use permit because you're not meeting it, and then,
She had pictures of all the.
then we would add fines to that. So what should happen is email Al Green, contact him or zoning officer. They'll try to negotiate that. If they can't and the board can't, then our next avenue is going to the state's attorney for legal action.
This has
Okay.
been going on for months.
Is there any more,
Months.
Can I ask
is
you a
there any
question?
more questions? Well, let's keep it on topic here. Is there any more questions on adding a data center to the original county ordinance so that it can start being regulated? Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is John Benson. I'm a homeowner here in Lincoln. He said something about an EPA study. Has anybody seen an EPA study? Who done the study?
That is done down the line. That's not done in this.
Oh, he just said something about he had to, get the EPA approval, something like that there in order to submit it. I believe it. Did I hear that right?
But that's all done under conditional use permits. That isn't what this group is voting on
Yeah,
tonight.
but you're voting to start to make a thing so they can build there. How do you know you're gonna build there if the EPA study's not telling us that this isn't gonna hurt our ground?
Because
How are you gonna say?
that's what happens in the next step.
I'm sorry, that just seems a little backwards.
Again, I
apologize.
I'm just gonna there is a ton of misinformation out there. There's a process that's followed on every single thing that goes on in the county. This is the first baby step of that process. So again, it's not for or against, but we cannot put any kind of regulations or any kind of stipulations on a data center until we have an ordinance in place that says the word data center.
Okay, well,
Is there any blockades for these baby steps? Because I wanna make sure that we're not getting cornered into taking a step with you and then a step over here and a step over here until we get to the point where the data center has a go. We need to know that.
So I think if I might want to back up and kind of explain the process again. So tonight, we're gonna evaluate the proposed language that's being proposed for the zoning ordinance, which would allow for data centers at all. The one that's been talked about recently or any other one. That's what we're talking about putting into the ordinance, because right now we don't have anything, the county doesn't have anything in the ordinance. So the planning commission is going to evaluate that. The zoning board of appeals then is also going to evaluate that language that's being proposed, recommend that to the county board. They can make changes to that and finally accept something to be able to put in the ordinance. At that time, if any developer wanted to build a data center, they would need to submit an application that would meet those requirements, and then that application then would get gone through very, very thoroughly to make sure that it meets those requirements.
Okay, so you just answered my question, because the board already knows the majority does not want these data centers.
Hold on, ma'am, I wanna clarify something. And the county board members will know exactly what I'm talking about. If we do not do nothing, just, was it 2-3 years ago? The state of Illinois came in and said, from now on, you cannot stop solar farms and you cannot stop wind farms. So without an ordinance, it's gonna happen no matter what. So we have to put in the steps to where we can regulate it once, because I
But
guarantee you
then President
this
Trump
state.
shut supporting those wind farms and solar farms down. The same thing's gonna happen with these data centers.
All
mark my words.
he has done is on the federal level of money. The state of Illinois has stepped in, and the county's hands are now tied to their ordinance for wind farms and solar. So if we don't get ahead of it, and our governor wants to say, I'm all in on AI, if Logan County does not have the steps in place to regulate how these things are built, then we will have no choice.
And then the city falls because many people are gonna sell their homes, move away, and then there's not gonna be a city, and nobody's gonna have jobs and money coming in. But they'll have a data center.
So the first step is we need to pass an ordinance so that the county board, the ZBA, has the tools it needs to regulate. Without those tools, if the state says you're gonna build a data center, there'll be one on every corner like Walgreens. Yes, sir.
Interesting, good to know.
Patrick Hess from Lincoln. Is it possible that in this ordinance you could change the language so that agriculture was not part of those zoning areas they could use and just make it manufactured? That way you wouldn't be using up good farmland for something that could end up destroying it in the future. And also, if it's under a manufacturing zone, then it wouldn't affect the tax base on the agricultural land that the farmers have. Because if they start buying up farmland at higher prices, that's gonna drive up taxes for the farmers.
Anybody else? Yes?
So I just wanna clarify, so this zoning ordinance you're putting in could be anyone. They could just show up like right on the edge of Lincoln and just put a big old data center on the edge of Lincoln. But like he said, there's enough industrial properties that are already regulated that it should fall under an industrial thing because of the size, the emissions, the lights, and all of that. That just by nature, that type of project should fall under industrial zoning. So if you take a farmland and you spot zone it, you're basically spot zoning it, even though it's special use, just for that one type of industry that does not benefit the community. Typically, spot zoning is set up to just benefit the people around it. You know, you have to have a hospital, well, then you spot zone for a hospital. But a data center does not provide any benefit to those people who live around it. So you're then spot zoning, which is contradictory to the whole theory of zoning.
Are there regulations with agriculture or with industrial that don't apply to the agricultural zoning? You know, is that the reason or the purpose for getting into agriculture, or to get around some of those?
John, I could probably cover some of that after we get done with public comments.
Okay.
Yes.
I do have some specific comments about the ordinance, but just to clarify further, HUD 8 has provided proposed changes to the ordinance, but the ordinance that's being talked about today, none of those suggestions were incorporated into this ordinance. Is that correct? Because HUD 8 sent suggestions on April 17th to the board, and shame on me, I didn't print off the copy, so I would appreciate your help in telling me if any of the proposed changes that HUD 8 sent April 17th were actually incorporated into the current draft of the ordinance.
So, yeah. Go ahead.
And then I
You
have
can
comments
compare,
about the
This is my
ordinance.
copy that I printed off from the email. I received it April 16th. I don't know
Okay.
when HUD 8 sent something. You said the 17th.
This says
so-
April 17th.
Okay, so,
Our copy was printed April 16th.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then can I give just a few comments on the ordinance itself? If that's okay? So
You're
back
talking
in,
about the ordinance from 1950, what year?
No.
Oh, that one there? Okay.
Okay, so, just real quick, I think it was back in January, there was an open zoning meeting to look at a template of a said ordinance that would be amended and added to the existing ordinance. And a lot of folks came to that meeting, there were a lot of comments made, and Mike DeRoss sent me an updated copy of that back in February, and I have that here. And some of the items that people suggested that I think have since been removed, possibly by our own attorney, it sounds like, or whoever was hired. But I noticed that some of these things we originally proposed aren't in there. So one of them was a public notice. In the template that was reviewed at the time, it had 60 days. Mike DeRoss had said he didn't know if that could happen and said it'd probably be 30 days, but there were many individuals and residents at the meeting who requested 60 days. So that was one thing, if there could be enough public notice, because a lot of the public's involved in trying to inform themselves on data centers in general. But I'm assuming that once an application were to hit, it seems like 60 days would allow more time for the public in general to understand what could potentially be impacting our community, and they would possibly appreciate that time to weigh in on it and reach out to board members and zoning folks and regional planning commission folks like yourself to weigh in on those comments. So that was just one item I wanted to resurrect from an old draft, and I understand you might not be able to decide on that right this second. Another item I wanted to propose was impact study language. So at the February board meeting, the board had discussed hiring a consultant to review the impacts that a hyperscale data center project would have on the county and on the infrastructure. I think specifically the board said cost impact, power, water. And since then, it has come to my attention that the impact study is no longer being pursued. And I was told by Mr. DeRoss right before he left that there was language in the ordinance draft, the one that we're talking about tonight, the amendment, to include an impact study. But upon reviewing the ordinance, there isn't any language requiring an impact study. There is just boilerplate language about the power and water supplier being able to confirm that they can serve a proposed building. But really the whole intent of the impact study when it was first discussed was to collect more information about the impact that said facility would have on we the people, health, safety, power, water, general welfare.
Our water bill's out
Right.
now.
So that was something that I had been told was getting included in the ordinance, and it's not, so I'm just bringing that forward to this committee to maybe consider if that would be something that could happen. And then I guess the only other.
I understand your concerns, but right now that's beyond what we're looking at here. That's the next step.
We can't propose revisions here, you're just reviewing what you have. And everyone on the committee has reviewed the amendment to the ordinance, correct? Okay.
So our function at this board is to look at our comprehensive plan and see if something like this fits into the comprehensive plan of Logan County, which it seems it does. So then, this commission will vote here in a little bit to add data center to the ordinance. So then that pushes it to the ZBA to start the next step, which things like what you're saying can be inserted into this ordinance under data centers. Does that make sense?
I think so. I appreciate you being patient with me.
Government works very slow. It's not as fast as everybody thinks it is.
I appreciate you being patient, so I just thought that this was a public forum to bring up concerns about the current ordinance amendment.
I tell you what, I appreciate everybody showing up, because at a regional board like tonight, we get usually nobody. Nobody's interested in the county as a whole. So, and as I stated, we're just the first step. We have the comprehensive plan. Later this evening, we're gonna talk about enterprise zones and trying to expand those to help with other things that we've been working on. But I don't know how to better explain it. Is we're just adding the word data center to the original draft that the county has. So then the next step is to add in the regulations and the questions to be followed. Yes, ma'am.
You keep mentioning the comprehensive plan. I don't know what that means, and I'm curious if you guys can explain what that means and how it's supposed to be decided whether something fits in if there haven't been any of those studies.
You can stop at See Owl and pick up the nice big green book and fall asleep reading it, but it has every city and area in the county on how we zone it, roadway purposes, what they can be used for, what we would like to see grow, enterprise zone areas. I don't know if you know what enterprise zone, that's,
I do.
To make a quick comment, that would be like, if you fall inside the enterprise zone and you're wanting to construct a grain elevator or whatever, you can apply so that you can buy the materials to build that are tax exempt, so that helps you develop. It's part of the comprehensive plan there. We're looking at expanding the enterprise zone. So a lot of boring stuff happens in this commission, but unfortunately it got out that this is a major step in the data center thing, and it's really just making it so it can be regulated.
Can I had a comment about that. If we have to figure out if this project fits within that comprehensive plan, are we not allowed to just say that it doesn't?
So,
Why not?
let me back up. The comprehensive plan, anybody can download it. It's off the county zoning website.
Thank you.
So that's the easiest way to find it. And I think that's what this commission is here to do, because we're probably a little more familiar with the comp plan, since a lot of us kind of helped develop it. So that's kind of what we're here to do tonight, is to go through, because being more familiar with it, we'll be able to tell, is this something that fits within that comprehensive plan and the vision that we had for the land use of the county? So that's what the planning commission does, not just for this instance, but for everything that we do every month when not many people are here. So again, I'm thrilled to have you.
So that maybe I'm gonna jump over some of the questions that are getting ready to get asked. The information that everybody is out there about data centers, there's all kinds of data centers, okay? There's a data center right here in Lincoln. It depends on what kind of data center it is. So this is a ordinance that brings the word data center in to where it can be regulated. As you heard him say, they don't even know what kind of data center is going in there yet, or what is the occupants of that area.
Well, they know what kind of data center it will be. It will be a hyperscale. They just don't know what kind of tenants they'll have.
Correct. But I mean,
This is a blanket ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is an encompassing blanket that, in my opinion, fits in the comprehensive plan. But right now, we have no way of regulating what's going on until we put this language into the ordinance.
So we can see that tonight.
Yes.
Yes, in my opinion, because I'm afraid, from what I saw happen to wind and solar, and knowing how our governor likes to govern, that the state is going to force it down our throats, and we will have no way of regulating. Does that make sense? Right now, we're in a game with no rules. They're making up the rules as they go. We need to set a guideline of rules, and this is the first step of doing that. Yes, sir.
So basically what you're saying is tonight, you're just saying, we're gonna put this, data centers are something that can be done, but we need to put a format in place and how they'll be accepted. But also part of your job, isn't it, is to make recommendations on what those laws and rules and regulations should be put in place, right?
We have a very limited scope of regulations that.
But you can make those recommendations.
Yes, the next step up, the ZBA, they have a much broader scope. Then it would go to the county board, and they have the broadest scope. So that's the steps in place. The easiest way I can explain it is, right now, we're playing a game with no rules. We want to put the word data center on the ordinance, so that
rules can be made.
then rules can be made on how, when, why, where, what. Does that clarify what we're doing here? Like I said, I only have experience in solar and wind. When the one north of here went in, very little rules. We learned a lot from that one. So then the next one, lot more rules were put in, a lot more regulations, a lot more. We heard from the farmers what they, if you're gonna put this, we want that. Anybody that farms around here that's got a windmill, that's why the little roadway going to your tower is even with your dirt. That came from the farmers. This is what we want. We don't want to have to drive over it or whatever. So those are the rules and the regulations that we have to start the ball rolling to get those kind of things put in.
I'm just still confused on what we were needed to come here for, since we're just putting the word data center in. I mean, that's why I'm confused.
Again,
I just was wondering.
I cannot reiterate enough. A lot of bad information is out there. A lot of bad information is out there.
As far as to what? These meetings, or just the data centers?
No, on data centers in general, on what kind of data centers, and how the process moves forward during government for data centers. I got involved in an online chat last week because someone said that if it's passed, it's nothing but local politician greed. I don't know where greed came in. Ain't none of us getting rich off of it. So, it just.
Then why are we doing it?
Because we have to regulate it. Right now, there is no
Because the
regulation.
governor states that we have to do it? I'm just trying to find out where this is coming from. Is somebody mandating you to get this done?
If we don't get it started,
Yeah.
it's June 1st, right?
June 1st for
Battery
battery storage. Don't know, session's not over, something could come out of data centers. I'm just saying, but we've previously had ordinances on wind and solar before the government stepped involved, and ours were more restricted.
Okay.
And once legislation changed, because we had a capability of denying applications or not moving forward, which I think a lot of the state was, that's when the government stepped in and said, no, you're gonna do it, and here's your restrictions in your ordinance, which was less restrictive than what we had in place.
Okay.
So like, even if you look at this draft ordinance compared to what Salem County just put in place, for theirs, ours is 10 times more restrictive than they did, it just generic, here you go.
Yeah, okay.
So what Kevin's talking about, what Mr. Cross and Tony was doing, this was discussed in October. What are we gonna do for battery and data centers coming? We don't have an ordinance in place, and that's when we kind of started the process. So this stays, if they come and apply, this ordinance pass, them or, another company, whoever comes in, this just says, hey, if you're gonna apply for a conditional use permit, here's your requirements before you apply. So when they apply, and then we move on to the second part, which is the requirements have to be met, and also why they're operating, such as, water concerns, noise issues, road use agreements, during construction, normal general operations, similar to what wind and solar have, such as wind farms we have in place, that they have 72 hours to comply with any issues, like if bearing goes out, oil leaking, and then that's when we can step and say, hey, this is part of our conditional use permit for you to operate going forward. You're violating that, and then that's when we move to the next steps, either negotiate with them, hey, address it. If not, then we move to the next step of getting state's attorney involved, etc. And then it just goes from through the legal process through there if someone was not complying. But our intent would be, you're not getting a conditional use permit or even operational for noise complaint, whatever. Now we're gonna take legal action basically to revoke that, which would shut it down.
Okay, and so after they get this part done, we go to zoning, come back to you guys. Does the public have any say in what those restrictions are gonna be? Like, can we get promises that no utilities absolutely will not increase due to these data centers? This is all on you. Can we get guarantee that this is gonna
That's
have
gonna
no
be,
health
ma'am, that's gonna be
concerns?
impossible, because I guarantee you, I can ask for a raise of hands. Everybody in this room's utility bill went up a bunch over the last 2 years. How many data centers?
It's
None.
because they installed
Silco's
smart
gonna do what
meters on
Silco wants to
everything.
do.
Yeah, cause my water bill's double than what I paid in Iowa, and I was watering.
That's the
4
Illinois
different
Commerce
people.
Commission
There.
runs the Illinois American Water.
Mhm.
So, again, this isn't the avenue for that kind of stuff, but what he is saying is, we all know how our state likes to vote on things at 2 and 3 in the morning. We have to get ahead of it. We have to get ahead. Yes?
So if we say we don't want one, they're gonna tell us that we have to have one? If we're voting no, we do not want one, and they're basically saying, no, you're getting one.
Sangamon County didn't have a wind or solar farm until the state said they were gonna have one.
Why, how do we stop? I mean, we the people don't want it. So where do we, where do we stand out on our vote that say we don't want it?
She just nailed it, and
I'm
I've said
sorry.
it plenty of times. It starts with the person wanting to lease the land. That being said, I'd like to close
Can that be
this.
disclosed, where the address and the owner of the farm who's leasing the ground for the data centers?
There, just to be clear, there is no application that's been submitted for a data center. So I don't know if that information is public, well, it's not publicly available because it hasn't been submitted yet, because there is no application. So if there was one previously, it was rescinded, so I can't answer whether it can be provided or not.
There's no tax papers at this point
There could be.
with a name on it?
Again, I'm not the zoning officer, I'm just sitting up here at the table tonight.
Can we postpone this till the person's here that can answer some of these questions?
The application has been pulled. There is no application out there right now.
It's a public record when it says it was already submitted before.
Correct, so you may want to call the zoning office next week when he's back in the office, and then he should be able to give you a better answer.
And I'll just try to wrap this up. You know, in terms of the comprehensive plan, just pushing us back in that direction, I'm wear the tie, so I'm supposed to read these things. And I did look at it, chapter 4 is your land use and transportation plan, chapter 5 is your community land use and transportation plans, chapter 3 is your goal objectives and policies. And the gist of the comprehensive plan is the county wants to regulate land use, and wants to regulate economics, and wants to regulate employment, wants to regulate density, public safety. And so what the comprehensive plan says is anything that comes in and is going to affect those things, we need to regulate it. And that's what's being proposed here. So, a use that the county wants to regulate, such as data centers, is going to be consistent with the comprehensive plan's objectives and policies in regulating that use. And so that's my very short pitch on why the ordinance is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And then, the exact language of the ordinance will be debated by the DBA tomorrow, and then once that regulation is in place, that's when you might see a developer, for whose sake to comply, bring a proposed project to the county. But the very simple task, I believe, tonight is this something that would be regulated, consistent with the comprehensive plan? Is it something that the comprehensive plan wants to regulate? I think the answer to that is yes. So, that's my public comment on the topic. Thank you.
All right. Last question.
My name is Connie Mertens, I'm from Mount Prospect, and I'm asking a question. I have no idea if it's appropriate or not appropriate, but my concern is there some way to bring this so that it can be voted on by we the people versus the Logan County Board?
That would have to be a question for the county clerk.
The county clerk?
There is a process. I don't know if this meets those stipulations on what to be voted on.
I don't wanna answer for Teresa directly, I don't know, I know she did talk to somebody in the group and gave them that information, because that was put out, last meeting at the courthouse, but I don't know the full details of what those requirements are. Yeah, I don't wanna answer something I'm not familiar with.
Would that be something that would need to be proposed to her?
Yes, you would have to get a hold of the county clerk and she can tell you if that can be proposed as a referendum on a ballot.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so that being said, I'd like to shut off public comments and, guess we will bring this to a vote first.
Well, I'd open up to discussion with members.
Okay, you are correct. Any, got one in the back of the room, the rest are over here. Any members would like to open up conversation on this?
Brett, can you discuss, how this ordinance request aligns to the comprehensive plan? I think it might help the group to understand why we're making the decision, whether it's for or against the recommendation.
Well, with the comprehensive plan, which was set up back in 2006, so it's getting a little old, and that's why we're already talking about trying to get it updated, lays out a lot of different land use patterns that we have for the county. Basically, it's a forward-thinking document that tries to lay out different things where we can attract business, how we want the county to look at, where we want the development to occur, and how we want to try and encourage development in the economy of the county. I think that there are several areas where that would definitely apply towards this or any other major development, because we would be encouraging employment centers and encouraging development and increased tax base, which I think was the point of the comprehensive plan. That all being said, obviously we need to kind of do that within the limits of that and in a smart way. So, and I can comment on that a little bit further later.
Any other comments from commission members? That being said, okay?
Okay. So as you guys know, well, as the members know, I always bring up questions here. So the rest, we've got an audience tonight, so it'll be a little bit different. With the comp plan, it talks about a lot of land use patterns, and I wanted to read one part in particular, because the chapter 4 talks about land use and how it needs to protect natural features, prime farmland, things like that. And it also wants to encourage development that's crafted to provide future development which is both compact and contiguous to existing developed areas. So the reason I bring that up is because what's in the subdivision ordinance being proposed is that these data centers would be allowed in M1, M2, M3, and also ag. Now, my concern with that is that if we allow this in ag, then we get areas of zoning that may not be that compact and contiguous as laid out in the comprehensive plan. We would get areas of other, these would pop up in different areas. We've allowed that for solar because it takes sometimes large areas of ground. We've done that for wind essentially, because we can still farm underneath those wind turbines, things like that. But I don't know if the data center really fits in ag. The reason I say that is because it's a very large building that gets done, several acres of parking lot, other development, things like that. So to me, it doesn't meet the requirements of being an ag zone. The decommissioning plan that's being proposed, which is great that they are willing to be decommissioned, but when you decommission a site of that nature, it never goes back to farming. You'll never be able to farm it again. And if we've got it as zoned to ag, but you can't farm it, you can't do anything else with it either, because it's not zoned as an M1. So then we just took a piece of property and turned it into something that's not marketable. So that's my concern with what we're doing by allowing that as being an ag, is that we are not following the spirit of what we've got in the comprehensive plan or even the language by allowing that in ag, because we want that development to occur in a compact contiguous area.
How did we handle that when the Elkhart mine was approved? Because that was obviously all farmland, and that was never be farmed again. So how did we handle it?
I have a hard time hearing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I brought up, how is the data center different from when we approved the Elkhart coal mine? Because that was agriculture, and we allowed that to happen, and as Brett said, now that mine is there, it's never gonna be farmland again. So, I guess my question is, by not eliminating ag, can the ZBA still put specifications on where? If it's agriculture land, but it's within, outside a residential area, or within so many feet of an M1, M2, or M3?
So you had brought up Elkhart coal mine.
Right.
So when that was proposed, that was rezoned as being, I believe, an M3 as an extraction district. So the reason that it was rezoned, because that was an appropriate use for that zone. So they knew that they were going to build a coal mine, they needed to get it rezoned for that purpose. That also included building the infrastructure necessary to have that as a zone for that purpose. So, roads, power, whatever else they needed there to develop that.
So part of this step is, if ag was eliminated from Apex J, in order to build a data center, and it happened to be zoned ag, they would have to go to the ZBA and have it rezoned?
They would have to be, the way I would see it is, yes, that they would need to get it rezoned as an M1, M2, M3, or whatever those applicable zoning ordinances would be, or find something that's already been laid out that way with, through the zoning or through a comprehensive planning process to be able to identify those locations where those type of developments might make a little more sense. Because otherwise I'm concerned that if it's just zone ag, then we could get these sort of developments popping up anywhere in the county, not only taking up that prime farm ground that I mentioned earlier, but also affecting those rural communities in that rural area when that type of development is more industrial and more manufacturing type space, and there may be a better place for that to happen.
Any thoughts or comments from the commission members on that?
I actually sent over here that it sounds like that property needs to be rezoned.
So
Has a request been made for that?
I think
It's
that
a lot of
was-
our scope, but I'm just asking.
I think that was, and there was an original application to rezone it, and then that was withdrawn.
So my
Do you
question
know
is,
for what reason?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what reason, probably because we didn't have anything in place for data centers, period. So,
But this proposal, and I just briefly skimmed it, does it reference agriculture? Because I know it references M1s.
So
Well, actually it does, yeah. Number 2.
so do you guys wanna make an amendment to remove the word agriculture from Apex J?
If I could just add a comment, the guardrail that you're looking for is the conditional use permit process. So you know, while ag might be an allowable district for this use to go into under this proposed ordinance, doesn't have to be approved on an ag land if it looks disjointed with the rest of your planning. And the reason why ag is an appropriate district, is because the substation that is the required connection for a data center is usually surrounded by ag, not surrounded by other industrial uses. So you can't just put these things in the middle of nowhere, because they have to have a connection, because they need power that they buy from generators off the grid. And so that's part of the reasoning, that's part of the rationale behind that district. You know, if you want to just place it, 15 miles north of town in the middle of cornfield, wouldn't work. And if somebody came to you and proposed, hey, we want to put a data center on this parcel, and you look at it and you say, well, you have a lot of houses on the north, you have some property over here that, isn't consistent with that, you can evaluate through the LaSalle factors. That were established.
Yeah, but if we remove the word ag, are you balking against having to go to the ZBA and ask for I understand what you're saying with the power station.
Mm-hmm.
But why couldn't you go to the ZBA at that point and ask for that ag parcel to be rezoned M1 or M2?
Well, you could, and I think that was what the company tried to do for this particular data center back earlier in 2026 or late 2025. And the resistance to that was, we don't want to rezone agricultural land for this use. We'd rather you go through a conditional use permit, so that then we can evaluate all the LaSalle factors and set a comprehensive set of regulations. So the messaging that we had received was, we'd rather keep it ag, we'd rather you commit to regulations that we then install and then evaluate on a case-by-case basis as a conditional use, rather than limiting to a manufacturing district. So I think that was the rationale behind it, that's why.
In Sugar Creek, rezone the substation out there on 5th Street?
Can I ask the attorney a question?
I don't think so, because that's part of that conditional use permit.
Are you aware of any lawsuits that have come up with any of these data centers and the power, the generators that you're talking about? Are there any current active lawsuits?
Talking to the commissioner, for myself, we leave ag in there, it's up to the ZBA and the county board at that point to tell them they have to get it rezoned. Because I see Brett's point, but then I also see this gentleman's point as in, and I just asked Brett if the substation on 5th Street was rezoned M1 for Sugar Creek to build. I mean, that's never gonna be agricultural land ever again either. So are we trying to put our foot in a ring that we don't need to be belonged in, because that's a ZBA question?
How difficult is it to get things rezoned, or not difficult?
There's a process, and we go through those processes anyway through here. We'll get a rezone coming through the planning commission, whether a property needs to be rezoned. I guess most recently in this kind of realm would be when we did the M3 extraction for doing some of the quarry ground. So it's possible, and those things do come before here through the zoning board of appeals and then to the county board. I think that if you're trying to rezone something to be an M district, manufacturing district of some kind, you would need to look at that and say, okay, well then what type of infrastructure are we gonna have to support that as manufacturing? Do we have roads, do we have power, do we have gas, do we have water, do we have sewer, all these sort of things that usually go with that sort of
But
development.
isn't that part of the conditional use permit? Because let's face it, where we all thought it was gonna go, you mentioned that they would have to upgrade the roads, because if it's gonna have 200 employees, the road will not support 200 employees.
Correct.
Here's the other problem with rezoning, and I don't want to interrupt, but if you rezone something as M1 and then the project doesn't get built for some reason, there's a lot of reasons why they don't get built. Now you have a property that's zoned M1 and 2 and 3 and is open to all the permitted uses of a manufacturing district. Now all of a sudden,
The other problem there is, and I own land like that, anybody knows where I live, the property behind me stayed zoned agriculture, even though it's part of my yard. If we take ag out, and like he said, if it gets rezoned, if they go through the process, it gets rezoned M1, and then the project falls apart and doesn't happen, then the landowner, Mr. White Pride, then you're stuck paying taxes on M1 property and not ag property, because it got rezoned and then the project never happened. So it's kind of a catch-22. If we pull ag out, it's restrictive, but if we leave ag in my opinion, there could be bigger hurdles that could possibly happen if we took it out. Like I said, they could go through the whole process and then at the very minute say, hey, we're not gonna build this thing, and we've gone through the process of rezoning it at a detriment to the original landowner. That make sense to you guys? At this juncture, I would leave ag in, and it would be up to ZBA or the county to tell them that they have to rezone it.
And the reason I brought it up is not just looking at this development, but looking 20, 30, 50 years down the road at what that property is going to be. You know, yes, I get that if we leave it in ag, we've got more control, and we can control what this specific development is. But once that development's gone, and it reverts back, it's ag, but it can never be farmed again, even after decommissioning. So then we end up with an unmarketable property that's not really manufacturing anymore, because it was never rezoned. It can't be sold as that, but yet we've got that, and we've got to go through all the expense, or their expense, of decommissioning it. But it doesn't help the community anymore at that point.
But it is possible to build something like this on ag without it being rezoned.
What's the purpose of it?
So if it does decommission, it stays ag.
Correct, right.
But it can't be.
Even after decommissioning, it doesn't really go back to prime farm.
And that may be true, but at that point, the landowner, maybe the market has matured and they have some other uses they could put there. Or if they wanted to put a more industrial use, they could rezone it to industrial at that point. But, you know, the agriculture, I was trying to look up the uses. Agriculture has other things that you could put there that might work. My concern would be if you forced a project like this to rezone to M1, and they apply for conditional use, and everything looks good. And I'm not saying that this happens, but this happens. Everything looks good, and then somehow financing falls through later. And then all of a sudden, the project gets killed for reasons beyond the control of anybody. Now you've got a property that's M1 that ends up, and then some other developer comes in and says, ooh, you got an M1 property right here next to a substation. I'm gonna throw, some industrial, you have industry, non-retail, commercial, laboratories, offices listed under, M1. They just put whatever they want there. They could put a gas station there, and then you have no control over, permitted use, because they don't even make a conditional use permit. They just come and build it. Okay, so that's what you might concern as.
Luke, just,
Yeah, sorry.
do you guys want to keep ag in there, knowing what we know now? ZBA could force them to rezone it, or the county could force them to rezone it, but if we keep it ag and it falls through, it stays ag.
I have a question though, with legal being here, is there an issue with the Illinois privacy law that's been pushing data centers out of Illinois to the neighboring states because Illinois has a privacy law here?
I didn't hear the question.
The Illinois privacy law, have you
Yeah,
reviewed that? Because it seems like that's becoming an issue of doing the data centers here. I wanna make sure that we're not gonna be in violation of the attorney and review the privacy law.
Oh, well, the county's not liable. The county has forced me for liability. That's something that Hoop developer has.
What do you guys think?
So, couple observations. First of all, the comprehensive plan is 2006, correct? It's 20 years old. A lot has changed in 20, I know, but a lot has changed in 20 years, right? We see that at the city a lot. We have ordinances that are still in place that were created in 1963, right? So what my thought on this is leave the agriculture in and send it to the ZBA and let them make that decision, because I still believe that guardrails need to be put in place. And that's what this does. Because without guardrails, it's the Wild West, right?
Right,
We've seen that at the city.
right.
So, I mean, I don't, some of you are Lincoln residents, and we had a solar farm pop up on the edge of town, and we didn't have our code in place to handle it. So what we were doing was, we were scrambling to address the problem. And what we were doing was, we were chasing the issue, because we're like, we better get a piece of code in place, because all these other people were in line wanting to come behind. So while one got through, because there were no rules to govern that, we did put an ordinance in place, and we talked for quite a while about that. And so now we do have rules in place, and I'll be honest with you, some of the people with solar, they don't like our ordinances, they think they're too restrictive. But we have ordinances in place, and we have a say now. Without this, you don't even have a voice in this. So I would recommend that the ZBA, we send this to them, and we can share our concern, right?
Right.
The language modifications you were talking about, we can make a recommendation that those be looked at and reviewed, and then that would be up to them. The other part in listening to this conversation is, and I guess maybe this is for Kevin and Dale, is it sounds like the average person doesn't, and I know, my wife was on the county board, and I gotta be honest with you, I still don't completely understand their structure. I think that, just a recommendation to our partners here and Joe, is that perhaps they can kind of put a process together of the road that they're gonna go down in the path, so that those of you who are trying to follow it know the steps that they're in and what the purpose of the steps are. Because the question was brought up earlier, why are we even here tonight?
Right.
Right? So, I mean, that's just my thought on it. I'm only one person on this commission.
I think that's a great idea.
But I hope you understand after tonight, when we're getting ready to vote, that, like Tracy just said, right now, it's a wide open road, there's no guardrails. So we have to put something down. I know the word data center is a terrible word right now in this community. But if we don't put it in, we have no control. And right now we have, the state can vote tonight, in the middle of the night, and we would have no control. So that's the reason we're meeting tonight, to send it to the next step, which gets it further down the road to where regulations can be made. One final comment.
I apologize. He's speaking for them people, they're not even from.
I totally understand.
How can they have any influence at all, how you people are gonna zone something if they're not even.
That's why we were discussing
Okay.
ag over here on.
Man, that don't mean no.
Why and
They're
why
trying
not?
to influence
Because
you.
We have history of agriculture property being changed in the past, and that's why we're trying to keep it to where it starts out ag, and it can go back to ag. Any other comments from the commission? Can I entertain a motion to propose Apex J to be voted on to add the word data center to the county ordinance?
I'll make it.
Sean makes a motion. Is there a second? Becky seconds. Any discussion? Would you guys like a voice vote or roll call?
Roll call.
Roll call vote, Tracy Welch.
I will vote yes for the reasons that I stated about getting some guardrails in place to at least get some regulation on this issue.
Kevin Bateman.
Yes, for the same reasons.
Tommy Young.
Yes.
Tom Anderson.
Yes.
TJ Bishop.
Yes.
Jeff Winicky.
Yes.
Becky Word.
Yes.
And John White.
Yes.
Brett, can I interject here? There were some comments that were made earlier about some recommendation that some people in the audience would like to make. I don't think that would be out of line for us to at least pass those along to the ZBA. And that's not saying whether we agree or disagree with those statements, just that they were brought up, and I do think that those need to be carried forward for consideration.
You sent an email earlier to everybody, correct?
Yes, sir, I have sent it to Al Green, so I believe he will have them because he's on the ZBA.
Okay, so he forwarded it to all of us. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Okay. We have no problem forwarding those on. Just understand their recommendations,
I appreciate it.
all right?
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments and understand what we just did was just the first process to try to regulate? Okay, so that being said, that topic is done for the evening, but I do want to point out that stick around for old business. Topic A is recommendations for new members for this commission. How many people would like to join us once a month? Go ahead.
If I end up staying here in this town, I might consider it.
We meet once a month.
I'm really considering selling my house now and
Is that what was it, a public that once a month?
So, you brought up a good topic. So if you're not interested in joining the commission meets usually once a month, the first Wednesday of each month out here. It will be at 6 o'clock. We apologize for the 6:30. It will be at 6 o'clock. Sometimes we skip a month or two because we're just the planning commission, so sometimes we don't have topics to discuss. But those are posted on the county website when the meetings happen. I have no idea, I'm not on the ZBA. It's 7:30 out here.
So that's like Berkeley and Caltech.
Yeah.
You don't get any higher than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
This is frustrating.
Yeah, you're the only one that listened to me. I didn't think anybody listened to me.
Oh, of course we do.
Cool.
Always.
So this was the city council.
This is the Regional Planning Commission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that was before. The mayor and all this.
He's got a whole bunch of different people from all around the county.
Okay. Diane said you said something. So I said Cal Berkeley and Caltech. You can't get
Well, before you brought me your phone, they had already closed public comment, so I didn't get to say something about that particular thing.
Ooh, it blew it.
Yeah, but it's okay. We'll have plenty of other opportunity, it sounds like.
All right. Hey, you got more brains than me. I was just a top secret career in the Pentagon.
Oh. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, something else. I initially asked about the regulations. It has a reason.
But this is outflow the idea. I think we discussed that. Matt is never here.
Look at you.
What I'm saying is,
I think we have to look at the bylaws. I think I brought this up in that was discussed. Can't Matt designate you as his designee? Like if he's not coming to the meeting, he would say, Kevin, can you go to the meeting for me? Because I think the city of Lincoln is the only one that has two representatives, a mayor and a representative, and the county has two. But if he's gonna put two county board members on it, Hey Tracy, was that not at the open meeting?
Yeah, but then.
I didn't hear it.
If JR appoints 2 county board members and then Kevin becomes Mount Pulaski's designee, that would violate the open meetings act. So 3 county board
Well, we can have 3 board members.
Because it's published.
Yeah, you're right, because it is, it's a public meeting anyway.
Whatever requirements that's within the minimum. So you wouldn't have to wait a conditional use.
If I could, for the rest of the people that are here, it's really nice outside. If you guys could take your conversations outside, that way we can finish up the meeting in here, it would really help how we can hear each other. Thank you, I appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay, but we need you to be quiet.
So item D is probably more to Tracy, status of the residential EZ proposal.
Yeah, I met with Jeff Priscelli and another individual this week, and they would still like to move forward. They're working on what the commission has already approved, that proposal, that contract. So I think what we're gonna see coming up is engagement with other members of the enterprise zone. They will be talking to them. And I also took a recommendation to him about some other stuff, regarding some other areas within Lincoln that I think would benefit from the enterprise zone. So I don't know if he's gonna work on that within the confines of the contract that was approved, or try to do it outside, but it is still moving forward.
Okay. And for those in the room, we're trying to expand the enterprise zone to include housing.
Residential.
Yeah, so like if someone wanted to build a neighborhood, or we could do one individual too, right?
Yeah, the idea behind that is that if you create an enterprise zone in residential, that it will incentivize homeowners to take advantage of those tax incentives, and then do upgrades to those properties, their house, new roofs, et cetera. That's the idea.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All right, so now we're down to Brett's topic, restarting the comprehensive plan update.
Check the notes here that Al
We're always restarting.
Here's what Al said. It looks like we need to begin the process of rewriting or updating the comp plan on our own. The organizations that were requesting us to delay until the spring have changed management. But Greater Peoria Economic Development Council has just reached out to request that we coordinate some public meetings with them. Does anybody have any ideas on locations and dates for public meetings regarding that plan? Greater Peoria Economic Development Council has some new programs for development that they want to coordinate with us on. Additionally, we should shortly have some initial feedback from the consultant regarding the EZ changes that we can integrate into our planning.
So when he says meeting, is he talking about a special meeting or like come to one of these meetings?
I think it is the public meetings that we would have to invite the public in for input as we develop the next phase of the comprehensive plan. So for some of the people, Becky, you've been on for a while, not to point you out. Were you here when we were going through the last one? Okay, and I think I was too, and we may be the only two. When we did that, there were a lot of open houses. A lot of times when people would, I think we had some meetings at the rec, we had some meetings downtown in a couple of places, I can't remember. But we did those and invited the public in. Yeah. To go over a lot of input from lots of different people from around the community in order to develop lots of these facets of the company. I think that would be all of those.
Well, we got a nice conference room downtown. Obviously, this works good.
Park District. I did a big roundtable discussion out there. This was about a month ago. Pretty well.
Maybe we could get together with
Did you get their email today so they can release that report?
Yeah.
Maybe we could set one up at Mount Pulaski sometime, like the Legion or something. Maybe something in Atlanta to draw in people from those sections of the county.
So,
is that something that we physically do, or Peoria?
So, yeah, so since we're working with GPEDC, Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, I believe that they would be the ones kind of, thank you, facilitating those discussions. Because obviously it's not something I relish. So, yeah, so
a PowerPoint presentation,
right, yeah, but I think in order to foster that discussion, I think I would fully welcome GPEDC to come down and help foster that discussion.
They did those rounds.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
In advertising, we'd have to do at least some advertising, so we're not just showing up by ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, because we don't
Because
want.
this is looking more like a regular meeting now.
Yeah, they're really good about, marketing those meetings and getting people out there. That, I mean, they know what the right time of day is to do it and how to make it run smoothly, so, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'd welcome them to do that, yeah.
So let's move on to new business, topic A, another controversial one probably. The Atlanta solar project at 1200 Avenue, sitting, approval, 5-SA-26. Did anybody get the email to see where that piece of property's at? It's a community solar project, not unlike what Lincoln's building down south of Kickapoo. So it's not, I guess it's different from solar for like powering data centers and stuff like the ones that have popped up around town. This is more community solar like Lincoln's building on South Kickapoo.
So to stay local?
Theoretically, yes.
Theoretically, yes.
I do have the application, and I've got the site plan here in case anybody wants to see it. 40-acre parcel just on the east side of the interstate from Atlanta. And they would be trying to put solar panels on all that. I ran through it and I had several questions that didn't quite make sense to me, so I'm still working on trying to get answers from them. I'll try and put that together for the ZBA tomorrow.
I'm surprised the property owner's not here.
Yeah, and the developers coming tomorrow to ZBA, so they would not be here tonight. But I had several conversations with them today and yesterday. My concern with that is it's a 40-acre parcel, but it's a north-facing slope, and there's a couple waterways going through it. So as of now, they haven't done their drainage study to find out where the drain tile are. And I wanted to make sure that we kept if there are drain tiles, that those are accessible and usable for any upstream property, and they aren't covered in solar panels that they can't be maintained. So they haven't done that, but that'll be one of the recommendations that I would like to make to the ZBA, if that's okay with the
Water
group.
runoff too from the panels that
And
are there.
that's another thing that we're working on. So they had tried to tell me that there would not be any increase in runoff, because the only impervious surface would be the access roads. And
The solar panel's pretty impervious.
Yes.
Last time I checked.
And my concern with that is because we've got a pretty good slope on this field, it's about a 5% in places. And then when you concentrate that water from the solar panel, it runs off the solar panel, kind of like the shed of a house, and hits the ground, it doesn't just soak in, it starts running. So when they say impervious, I don't always agree with that, so one of my recommendations would be that the ZBA would require, or the county board would require, a drainage study done, signed by a professional engineer, and that way we could actually get somebody putting their name on it and their seal, to where there would not be any increased runoff in the neighboring properties.
And water goes right off into a ditch.
If part of it where it runs into the ditch and part of it goes underneath the culvert, underneath the public road, and I don't want that washing out. Correct, Don.
Hey, correct me if I'm wrong about that, aren't they only allowing, if that lady that spoke here a few months ago, they're only allowing a certain amount of customers to receive that community discount?
So the way community solar works is.
So it's not really like a community per se, it's
Right,
like.
so that you're right, you have to sign up for it. It depends on how many people sign up for it and how much solar is left over to where it can offset your bill. Like the one we're building on South Kickapoo, part of the lease agreement is it's going to power 80% of the city buildings, which frees up tax dollars that we can use somewhere else. But then the rest is sold for community solar to residents. The biggest problem is Ours has been developed for 1.5 years, and Ameren is telling the developer they won't even consider hooking it up till 2027. So it's just solar panels just sitting. So that's part of the problem, is they get permitted to build these things, and then you can't get Ameren to put the power on the grid.
And what's the reason for that?
It's Ameren.
Like, okay.
It's basically all I can say is it's Ameren. It's no different than American Water. They do what they want to do.
I can add something too on that. It's funny, because when Dale's around and you mention community solar, he always makes the developers say, let's clarify this. This is gonna go on the grid, it's gonna stretch 5 states or whatever. Brett may not even know this yet. I talked to Ameren in the process of other projects, is that the Blackjack solar farm, which I assumed was gonna go on those high wires that go diagonally across the property.
Oh.
They're going into the local grid. They're literally going into our blacktop, tapping into, so that power literally is going local.
Right.
So I think.
But I don't know, the big confusion is how Ameren distributes that to the people who sign up for it.
Yeah, it's my understanding it was like a subscription kind of
Right.
system where you had to, but everybody it wasn't community, it was just a specific amount of people.
Correct, because the way it's described to me, it's no different than a pie. There's the pie is only so big, so they can't keep selling off pieces of the pie, hoping it gets bigger. So it's the community solar part is kind of strange, but at least it's community solar, and it's supposed to stay local versus going on the power grid and going out east.
Yeah, but can you confirm that? Because I've talked to some people too, and there's kind of a misnomer that people believe community solar means our community. People from other communities can sign up for it and get those credits.
Correct.
Because I was actually approached by a gentleman who was setting up a community solar farm outside of Lincoln. I think it's another state. And he wanted us to get signed up, later to find out that they were really trying to get people to make the commitment to use the capacity. And I suspect it converts back to some sort of tax credit or some incentive for them
Yeah,
to do
the
that.
difference between community solar and what the wind farms and stuff around here are doing is, that's no different than corn and soybeans. It's a commodity, it's sold on the power market, where community, like you said, they try to get local residents. Basically, I'm just gonna use the word, you're buying stock into the solar thing, you're gonna get credits on your power bill.
But it don't cost you anything.
But the misnomer is, if you get 10,000 people sign up, all of a sudden your stock is very small because they've oversold it.
Yeah, they only have a certain amount of capacity.
Correct.
To allow for sign up. Once that happens, there's no more to be.
Well, that's why the city was only allowed so much percentage of that, because it wouldn't leave enough left to sell on community.
So is this proposed solar array in Atlanta, is it fixed position, or will it rotate with the sun? Because, and maybe not even our concern, but the one that we had down there for the wastewater treatment plant, there was periods of time when the motors to rotate the panels weren't working. They got zapped by lightning.
And it was an Ameren issue that wouldn't fix it.
Well, how many months did it take? And it was very expensive.
Almost a year they were fixed, and it's because they got struck by lightning on a piece of, the first delay was, we had the product sitting there, Ameren needed to borrow it to take it somewhere else from a storm. They took, I'll just say generator or whatever it was, they took it away, and it took 1.5 years for them to bring it back to us. And then it got struck by lightning, and it took another year for them to fix it.
But didn't they also tell us this is the last time we're gonna replace this?
Yeah, they said this was the last time they would fix it. But ours down, I see what Tracy's saying, ours is on South Kickapoo, they follow the sun, kind of like the ones south of Lincoln on 55 do.
Yeah.
Does that say what this one does, or is it fixed?
I haven't found it yet, sorry. I'm scanning, but I haven't found it.
The difference is how much power it generates, because they can follow the sun versus not generating as much in the morning, generating a lot in the afternoon, and not so much in the I've looked at the property. I'm not a big fan of using farmland either, but like Brett said, it's not as bad as South Kickapoo is, but it's not the best farmland either. What if I call for a vote?
You're not leaving.
All right, let's, what does everybody think? Do you wanna move this on to CBA?
Yes.
I think as long as his concerns are addressed.
But that would be a ZBA concern, right?
Yeah, but so what I do with any of the, when I was acting director and what I'll do tonight since Al's gone, is I'll go ahead and summarize what we do with what the vote is, with what we recommended or decided not to recommend, however the case may be, and then any concerns that the members brought up. So that's what I put in the letter, and then I will email that, or I'll email it later tonight to Doug Thompson and to Al Green, and then they can disseminate that out to the other community members, take any discussions we had into consideration before they do their deliberation.
So our biggest concern right now, it's not where it's at, it's water runoff, drainage. Possible drainage on the actual property and overwhelming the ditch and the culvert neighboring.
I'll make a motion that we send the Atlanta Solar 2100 Avenue project on the ZBA, with the recommendations of the concerns of the water runoff.
Second.
Second made the motion, John seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. That brings us down to public comments. You ladies state, have you got any comments? No? No executive session, correct?
Hold on, I do have a couple of comments because it wasn't on the agenda, but, so as part of the Regional Planning Commission, I sit on the Community Health Collaborative Board, so that's the representation that you guys get. So I figured I better give you guys an update as far as what we're doing, because it does tie back in, so bear with me. The hospital planning on updating some of the graphics on the fitness court there downtown. The city's building a pavilion there on that side of the park. This month, the hospital's promoting some of the walking trail for the month of May called Mindful Miles, so you guys
By
can
the
sign
way,
up for that if you want.
If you sign up for that, you don't have to walk at the hospital, you sign up, whatever the app is, you can contact Mrs. Bateman, she'll be more than happy, but it tracks every step you take. So mowing the lawn, whatever, you don't have to go to the hospital, it's tracking walking distance just with an easy app. So don't think you have to go to the hospital to walk, it's just getting your body out and moving.
Trying to be a healthy community.
She's doing 10 miles a day.
There is also a community health dashboard available from the Memorial Health website. The reason I bring that up is because that's got a lot of demographic information on it that's going to lend itself real well as we start getting into the comprehensive plan phase. So that'll be one of the other resources that we can use, and I'll make GPEDC aware of that too, that we can draw information from that community health collaborative or from Memorial Health, because there's information like that already out there. So anyway, I'll try and give reports whenever I can. We meet quarterly, I believe, for that meeting. That's all.
Any other comments?
Yeah, did we, this would have been a while ago, did we ever discuss completing that Katy Trail? Aaron, did we, was it, I think it was this group? I
So,
could be wrong.
yeah, so
And was that like a grant process we need to go through, or?
so it wasn't the Katy Trail, that's a trail down around St. Louis area.
Oh, okay, I thought it went from like St. Louis to Springfield or something.
Oh, okay, so that would be.
And we were a missing link, if I remember.
That would be part of the bike trail planning,
Okay.
which, has not gotten a lot of traction lately.
That's not the Katy Trail?
No, not the Katy Trail.
Oh, okay.
Katy Trail is, I believe, actually in Missouri. That's one that goes across Missouri.
Oh, okay.
It goes over towards Kansas City. I can't remember how far it goes. That's
Okay.
on the abandoned rail line. So what Illinois has been trying to do, and McLean County's been phenomenal at getting their part of things done, is running along the Route 66. And I think that may be what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of bike trail that kind of parallels Route 66. They've gotten that developed all the way from, I think, Lexington down to Punk's Grove, maybe even down to
They got
Plain.
theirs in McLean.
Yeah, so, I mean, they've done a really good job. And we haven't, in a lot of other communities, haven't done anything with it.
Yeah, I've had a couple people just express interest in being a couple bike riders now, so I was just inquiring about it.
Yeah, so, anyway, as part of the Community Health Collaborative, I think that's how I ended up with a seat on that Community Health Collaborative. And also with the Parks Coalition, through the hospital, we're always looking for opportunities to do that, to try and promote bikes, trails, walking trails, things like that within the community.
So McLean County would be the people to talk to since they've already implemented it and the process.
They have been phenomenal to talk to in the past, but we haven't been able to get a lot of local buy-in for anything like that. So it doesn't matter who we talk to, when I bring it back here, it hasn't gone.
What's the cost?
Part of our hiccup though,
Sorry.
isn't part of our hiccup, this goes way back.
I think it's the interstate. Is that right?
No, I think it's, if you go look at McLean and stuff, they have a lot of land on the side of Old 66.
Mhm.
We don't have a lot of land on either side. We would have to truck in an enormous amount of dirt.
Is that interurban land still available? The Ameren was gonna supposedly donate at one time. That runs from
A lot of overgrowth, right?
Yeah.
The interurban going south?
And you figure from the coal mine road to Williamsville, it's clear because they have conveyor from there.
Right. So we would need to look in and take a deep look into ownership on things like that to find out where potential trails could go. But yeah, I mean, that may be one opportunity is the old interurban line, which I believe is owned by Ameren. We may be able to get an easement from them to be able to operate that underneath there. One of the challenges we would have here in Logan County is maintenance, because McLean County is unique because they have a McLean County Parks and Recreation Center or tax base. So all the citizens in McLean County pay toward McLean County Parks and Recreation, and one of the functions of that is to maintain the trail system. We don't have that in Logan County, so we would have to try and figure out who would be maintaining that. I imagine a lot of fingers would point towards my department. So, and of course, as much as I would love it, I would say, that's fine, I'd love to help, give me the money. So, there would definitely be some growing pains if we wanted to search that out.
Thank you.
All right, any other public comments? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
That table over there, all in favor said aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
This makes up for It's been a while since we had one.
Any questions?
Yeah, it was.
I know tonight was confusing on what this group actually.
Well, and I think that's part of the issue is